All right, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if I lost the connection or what it was. I think I lost all the questions that I had up on there. So if I didn't answer your question, just write it back up on there for me again so that I can try and answer your questions. All right, so I mentioned a little bit earlier about physique, and I want to just talk about it again, how important it is. What's up, Nick? I just want to talk about how important it is for guys. It's not to be focused on being the most shredded guy or whatever going through Indoc. You don't need to be the most jacked or even the overall strongest guy for just going through Indoc. When you're focusing on your Indoc training, you want to make sure that you can do the test, basically. Once you graduate Indoc, then you can do a lot less pull-ups, you can do a lot less push-ups, all that kind of stuff. And you can go back to your normal CrossFit routine or whatever other stuff you're talking about. I recommend functional fitness personally, but focus on your training, like what your standards are. You're trying to get 70 push-ups, 75 sit-ups, 13 pull-ups, all that kind of stuff. So make sure that you are practicing to that and not to benching 300 pounds or whatever. That's nice, but if you can't do the push-ups, then it's not going to help you become a PJ and graduate Indoc. All right, so I'm getting some of these questions back in again. Nick, keep on with these comments. PJ's joining LifeLight. I've done a couple LifeLight things just on paramedic refresher rotations. You can definitely do that. I think it transfers over fairly well. There'll probably be like a couple of things that you need to train as a civilian LifeLight, but most people don't want to do that. Nicholas, you know what color my eyes are. Yeah, the asthma waiver I talked about. You have a good chance. ASVAB waivers, I don't know. I can say that I've seen some guys ASVAB scores that were in the 30s. So if you didn't get that, then I would probably try and retake the ASVAB, if that's the thing. I don't know. Retraining, cross-training process. I honestly don't know a lot about that as far as like who you're supposed to get in contact with. I'm sure that there's somewhere on the Air Force portal that you can go to contact somebody. So I can't tell you exactly much about that. America, another one of my students. Would you recommend STS or RQS for your first duty station? I personally would recommend STS just because that's the route that I went. And it really caused me to mature a lot more as a PJ and as a person because I was kind of running on my own, fixing my own gear, taking care of my own upgrade and taking care of whatever it was. And then being in a foreign country, I had to kind of overcome some of the barriers that come along with that. So, but as far as STS, I think it was an awesome experience and I had a great time. RQS, you'll be kind of more in a, not to say like a sea of PJs because there's not too many of them, but there's going to be up to 100 PJs at one of the RQSs, so it's kind of easy to get lost if you don't stand out that much. But STSs are a lot smaller, tight-knit type of team, so I really enjoyed that about it. Man Alives, how do I practice for push-ups after run swim cows? I can do over 70 without doing the full pass. Yeah, that's part of my thing that I'm going to try and do for the workouts that you guys are going to hopefully go through. I want to make sure that you're able to do it because a lot of times, just like you said, guys come up to the pass test and they're like, okay, I can do the swim because you're going to do underwaters first, you're going to do the swim afterwards, and then there's going to be a 30-minute break before you do the run. So in between there, you get a little bit of time, you go over there, you do your run, you're like, okay, I guess I barely made it through that, and then you have to do your cows afterwards. So part of that's going to be some kind of interval training, and like I said a little bit earlier, is you're going to have a day during the training where it's going to be kind of like that. Not just run, swim, cows, but you're going to have like a grass and gorilla session. You're going to go into a swim, and then after that, you're going to do some water stuff, and then you're going to do like a quick calisthenics workout just to simulate like a drop and that kind of stuff after you're done with all that stuff, just to see where you're at with your push-ups. Like, you're going to be smoked, but that's how you train to make yourself better with the interval training. Train paramedics, joining the Air Force for Justin Wally, and becoming PJs. Yeah, you can, as long as you make it through, you don't have to go to paramedic school again, as long as your cert hasn't lapsed. The tray. Yeah, the ASVAB waiver thing. I don't know of anything like that, but I've seen guys that are in the 30s as far as ASVAB, so I think it should be good. Advice on getting pull-ups. I typically like to vary out my pull-ups, not just the standard palms away grip. Do this kind, do it with the weight vest, do some explosive type of pull-ups where you're trying to reach for something up on top. So always push past that limit. Don't always just go up to that limit, because then those muscles that you need to use to go up a little bit higher when you're smoked, then it's kind of hard to train those if you haven't before. So practice varying your pull-ups like that. Every minute on the minute, push-ups to increase push-ups count. Best strategy. I don't just do push-ups by itself. We do sometimes where it's like 20 seconds, kind of at the bottom thing, or 20 seconds of rest, 10 seconds of push-ups, whatever it is. You go for 10 minutes and you try and get the same amount of push-ups as you did before. Obviously, it's going to be pretty hard to do that, but things like that where you just try and train for endurance for your push-ups. And then once you actually train that up, then you focus on doing it for the full 2 minutes and making sure you can do 70 push-ups for the grad standards. Can prior service for Astros Sloth. Can prior service ever go to Indoc a second time if they fail the first time? I believe so. I saw a guy who's come in here 3 different times. I actually think there's a guy on this team who he tried out first, he quit, came back another year and a half, he got injured, and then he came back another year and a half later, and he's on the team right now. So there are some opportunities to come back, but it takes a little bit of time. Kid Acosta, would you say that men who wash out once and come back for round 2 are stronger and more mature? I think for the most part they're more mature. A lot of times they have some stuff in the back of their head of like whatever happened during that pool session that they wanted to quit on, or that pool session that they're scared and that kind of stuff. So it kind of depends on the person and what you do to prepare as soon as you get out. Are you going to bounce back and fuck that, I got it, I'm going to bounce back, I'm going to be good to go? Or are you going to be like, I really want to do this, but I'm scared of the pool still? If you haven't overcome your fear of whatever it is, then I would probably wait a little bit longer. Haley Luker, do you overall love being a PJ? What would you say are the 3 most memorable, important parts from your career? That might have to be a whole another video, but I've loved being a PJ for as long as I have been. It's always kept me motivated. It's always kept me. It's kind of shaped my personality of who I am and the way that I am. I owe everything to the career field and the Air Force that made me what I am. So I've loved it, definitely. But memorable parts, there are tons of memorable parts from being a PJ. I mean, you have to go down every emotion of most memorable, like sad, happy, whatever it was. Like, you can go all the way down the list, but obviously saving someone's life and being able to visit them afterwards, that was one of the best feelings that I got, being a PJ. And that's why we set out to do this, is to save people. So I'm glad to have been able to experience that. It's only stateside. Most of the time you don't get to see people in the hospital deployed, but stateside rescues, I was able to stay there with the patient and help him and talk to his family and that kind of stuff. And they send me cards every once in a while, so it's pretty nice. But I'll talk about mission stuff later on a different video. Camel Legend X, whatever it is. You can't specifically choose STS. When I graduated the apprentice course, I was at the top of my class, so they put up a whiteboard that had all the stations that we could go to, and I picked that, or I got picked for that. Actually, I picked a different one, then another one opened up, and they were like, oh, I guess we're going to send you to this one because it's better. But I wanted to do that anyway. Let's see. What do you think of Air Guard units? And do they do anything different from the active duty members for Lonely Pirate? Yeah, the active duty guys, are always in, obviously. As far as the Guard units, they're a little bit different in the way that they report for duty and the way that they train. Most of the time they volunteer for deployments and that kind of stuff, and they do a little bit less training, but the thing that they beat the active duties at is the longevity of the people that work in that actual unit. So there's a lot of continuity within the unit because there are people that have been stationed there for like 20 years. So they know ins and outs of every single thing that happens in that unit. So, there's a couple different things. Route mode, training plans, trying to get them out by December 1st, working as hard as I can to make sure that those get out, but trying to do a website, workout plans. I'm going to have the workouts on an app, so it's a little bit easier to take with you wherever you go, and you can have some videos and stuff on how to do that. So, but I just got my logo approved yesterday, so you guys will be seeing that here soon. Also, Benjamin since 99, corrective vision, eye surgery, glasses. Glasses are okay. Glasses and contacts are okay. We have guys that are going through Indoc right now that are wearing glasses. Do we have to have a shaved head at BA prep? I don't think you have to have a shaved head at BA prep, but you definitely have to have one before you show up to Indoc. In fact, if you're coming to Indoc, I'd make sure that the night before you're like, hey, we better shave our heads because we don't want to look like a bunch of dumbasses whenever we show up. Also, you don't want to worry about that. Yeah, like Spec Ops Recruiting said, you don't want to worry about your hair whenever you're freaking trying to do 10 ups or whatever. All right, Lawrence B, 33. Is the underwater part of 10 ups done in a 25 meter pool? Sometimes. It's also done in a 50 meter pool. But the 50 meter pool is 12 feet deep, so it kind of makes up for it. Either way, it's about the same distance. We do it widthwise, not lengthwise, so you're not doing 25 meters of 10 ups. You're doing the widthwise of the pool. Typical turnaround between attending phase 2 and starting Indoc. This is for Uber Dave 5000 again. I went to a person's phase 2 last year, actually like exactly a year ago, and they're just now coming through Indoc. They're on this team right now, so it varies, but it takes a little while. For the haircut question, all right. D. Basheda. Do you have weeks off to go get a massage or a chiropractor? No, I wouldn't count on any of that kind of stuff. No massages or chiropractors. We have athletic trainers that can dry needle you and that kind of stuff at the beginning of the training day or at the end of the training day, just based on their schedule. but no massages or yoga, that kind of stuff. You can do whatever you got to do in your dorm room, though. Will there be a weight training in your program? There's going to be weights, definitely, but most of it's going to be farmer's carry, sandbag carry, rucks, ruck PT type of things, mostly exercises that we're going to do at Indoc, and a couple other things that I personally do in order to make sure that I'm as fit as possible. So there will be a little bit of weight training, but mostly like body weight, functional type of fitness. All right. Krish 35. What is the process for going from civilian to Crow? What are the steps and in what order? Honestly, I can't tell you. There's a couple recruiters on here that could probably give you a little bit better information on the backside of the recruiting process, because I don't really see that. They just show up kind of on the doorstep and I train them. So I might want to get with some of those recruiters that are on here. Astros Sloth. What is your name? I remember you. Thoughts on getting to the 24th? You're not going to go to the 24th straight out the bat. You want to have a little bit of experience under your belt and have the right attitude. There are guys that get to the first duty station and they have the right attitude and the 24th accepts them. But you got to be really good on your skills, practicing, as much as possible so that you can do all the scenarios that they're going to give you and that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure that you are, the strongest candidate out there, because you're going to have another selection. So make sure you're good to go on that. During Indoc, do you get the weekends off? Like I said, most of the time you do get the weekends off. There are times when the instructors can come down and, check on you. So most of the time you'll get them off. Have worked with any Aeromed techs during your time as a PJ? Not that I can remember. I've worked with, surgical teams and that kind of stuff, but not a lot of Aeromed techs. Lebedub. Yeah, definitely I'll integrate. I mean, it sounds like you're trying to hit on each other right there, the way you described it, but I'll make sure that you guys are able to link up and train together as much as possible, because I think it's really important for you guys to train together and push each other, and hopefully you guys will, go to Indoc together and go through the entire process as much as possible together. Better breath holds underwater. I wouldn't focus as much on the breath holds. I'm going to go through a couple techniques to increase your breath hold a little bit, but I would focus more on the stroke portion, like how you're going underwater, because that's really what's going to make or break your underwaters. Because a lot of guys end up not being very efficient with their strokes, so they end up taking a lot longer than they really needed to on any breath hold that they have. So I'd focus on your underwater technique, and again, I'll go over that stuff whenever the website comes out and the workouts. Most mileage you run at Indoc, the most you're going to run at a time is going to be 10 miles, and that's going to be at the grad run once you finish and you graduate the course. But besides that, 6 miles is the final grad eval. 6 miles in 42:06. But on a weekly basis, you usually run about no more than 10 miles for the entire week. But you are always running, shuffling from place to place. You're not allowed to walk anytime that you're at the schoolhouse or any of that kind of stuff. So, R. Elliott, 27, biggest things leadership-wise cadre is looking for at the past Crow selection. I was mentioning a little bit earlier about being stoic in the way that you're presenting yourself when you're doing your grass and gorillas, when you're doing your underwaters. You don't want to show up looking like you're all jacked up and, pain face, all that kind of stuff. You want to look probably just like you're looking at the screen right now. Calm, collected. You're always looking around, always taking care of your teammates, and nice and loud. You're not just in your little bubble, trying to think about yourself and how much it hurts and that kind of stuff. You're always looking out for your team. Reaper Ninja, is the pipeline 2 years straight, or do you get breaks in between? You have breaks in between, so it kind of depends on the slots of the school because they don't always line up exactly. You'll have some breaks in between. That's why it really can take about just under 2 years. It can take probably a year and a half if you're really hitting back-to-back schools. But yeah, there are some downtimes like a month or two in between starting the apprentice course or whatever. So you'll have some downtime to take leave and that kind of stuff if that's what you're worried about. Caleb Parent, yes, there are definitely some guys that make it through the pipeline who make poor PJs, and because they make poor PJs, they end up sitting on the bench and staying at home station doing scheduling or doing whatever, that kind of stuff, because really you don't want nobody wants a guy on their team that is, not up on their skills or not mature enough or whatever. McCordian, what's the training event where most failures occur? I'd say it kind of depends on the day again, but as far as the water, most people fail at buddy breathing. As far as the land, most people fail at push-ups for the most part. So that's what I see the most. But there are, here and there are a couple guys who fail for the swim, fail for whatever it is. So, yeah. Resilient strength, my experience with one-man comp at dive school. That was actually one of the only things that I failed one time at dive school. I did it on the retry, but they do, you have to undo your knots back there and that kind of stuff. They did what I thought was the whammy knot, which is a unfixable knot basically. So I ditched my equipment before it was time, so I failed before that. But for the most part, if you just stay calm and you know your stuff, exactly, they're going to teach you exactly what to look for, so you'll be good to go. But I'd say definitely focus on Indoc right now, and then once you get over here, we'll talk more about dive school and what to think about that. Bashida, is it difficult to get the duty station you pick or get transferred later down the road? It's fairly easy to get the duty station you want. It just depends on where you want to go. I mean, if you want to go overseas, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. If you want to go to, Nellis or Moody, that kind of stuff, you're pretty much guaranteed to go there because they have a lot of PJs there, a lot of people coming and going, so you have an easier time. You're definitely going to get transferred later on the road unless you're at a reserve unit. But you're going to get transferred pretty much every 4 years or so. All right. Recommendations on speeding up the waiver process for Kip Brew. Yeah, I can't really speak on that. I can't think of a time that I've had to do anything on the backside with getting guys into the Air Force. But again, the recruiters might be able to help you on that. All right. Tyler Robinson, what are some of the big distinctions that a strong candidate makes? Pretty much they come prepared and they're looking out for the team. That's it. That's what gets the guy honor grad. He's always calm. He's a guy who's like making jokes when you're on the side of it. Not to the point where you're making fun of the training or anything like that, but you're trying to motivate your guys and get their minds out of their own heads, basically. Remind them that you're as a team and you're trying to get through it together. Cam Legend X. Should a person go to college and get through paramedic cert and enlist as an E3 or just go straight through? I would definitely just go straight through. You're going to get that paramedic experience when you get into the apprentice course and that kind of stuff. So if you're going to do it as soon as possible. Don't wait, because paramedic school in civilian sector is going to take a lot longer than paramedic school in the military. ICHOP, do crows ever go on missions or are more involved in planning missions? They do go on missions, but it's pretty much after you make captain as a crow, you're not going to go on as many missions unless the PJs need you, because I mean, it kind of depends on the mission, but a lot of times it's going to be planning and making sure that you're advocating for your guys and taking care of your guys as much as you can from the jock. Leucopotamus, your EMTI. Yes, I believe you would have to go through the entire thing again because you need to be up to paramedic speed. Would buddy breathing practice? Yep, I would definitely practice buddy breathing before you get in the pipeline, just getting that motion down. And again, I'm going to talk about this stuff whenever I actually put out my videos and all that kind of stuff. But I would definitely practice buddy breathing right now. A lot of people have trouble just getting their snorkel or their mouth on the snorkel and breathing properly and passing it back and forth. So just that motion right there is going to put you ahead of those other people that are not doing that. Is there any way to spectate a PJ training day? It depends on if you actually know somebody. We can't have everybody like actually coming out and checking out all the stuff that we're doing because obviously we can't tell everyone exactly how we do everything. But if you have somebody that you know at a PJ unit or something like that, I'm sure they would be willing to let you watch them jump or that kind of stuff. We do air shows and stuff every now and then, but it's kind of hard to have bystanders because we want to focus on our training and not talking to the bystanders and that kind of stuff. Resilient strength, how likely is it to recycle if you fail an event at Indoc? As long as you don't quit and you're showing us that you're motivated throughout the entire time that you're at the Indoc schoolhouse, then we're going to advocate for you because we want to make sure that the right guy gets through as much as possible, and we will do our best to train you off to the side. I mean, I, as well as a bunch of other instructors, stayed later than we really needed to because we want to focus this guy on his push-ups or focus this guy on whatever it is. So I'm pretty sure that as long as you're still motivated, you're the right guy, we'll give you a recycle. But it's up to the commandant, so. Yeah, Reaper Ninja, surviving the cut. There's actually an instructor who's in that can't find his buddy. Xander or Kua. If I've had hip surgery, will they still accept me in this program? Yes, as long as you're not limited in your weight bearing or your range of motion. Casey Dibs 15. What happens if you get injured during Indoc? If you can keep on pushing through, then you keep on pushing through. If it's something that you're going to be on a waiver for over the maximum allowable absences of training, then you'll most likely get recycled if you're a good candidate. And if you're not a good candidate, then you're probably just going to be reclassed. Cam Legend X, STS, they support. Mostly they're in a role where they're attached to another team. So you're not deploying as an entire PJ team or anything like that. You're deploying as the technical expert for ropes or extrication, that kind of stuff. And obviously medicine to whatever team you're attached to. And then also you are the main personnel recovery planner on any mission that they do. So you're doing all that planning, and then you're also the medic, rescue expert kind of stuff. Drew E. Gibson. As far as somebody actually entering in their mid-30s, like I said, I've seen some guys come through and they had a little bit of a harder time. I mean, a little bit slow recovery, all that kind of stuff, but I think they will most of the time do a pretty good job because they're pretty set in what they want to do. They know what it takes. They've done the research. They're not going to make impulsive decisions. They're not going to quit at whatever time it gets hard. So I think for the most part, more mature guys do well. They just have a little bit of difficult time with the physical portion. Difference between RQS and STS. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but most of the differences are, like I said, you're attaching to different people in the STS, and then the RQS you're deploying as a single guardian angel or PJ team. All right, last couple questions, and I gotta go. NJ Lancy, would you say 20-plus-year-olds are physically more capable than guys right out of high school? I don't think that they're physically more capable. I've seen a lot of guys who are young that can make it, but it kind of just depends on your discipline before you came in. I mean, you see a lot of guys that are in, awesome shape coming. They're 30 years old. And then you see guys who are 18 years old and they haven't done anything. They didn't know how to prepare at all. Their mom just sent them over and they're like, I'm going to go to Indoc. And then they come back and, realize that they didn't prepare. No, it is not possible to spectate a watercon session at Indoc. Are you local here in San Antonio? Because there are a couple people that I'm going to try and train here in San Antonio coming up soon over the Christmas break. So if you are in San Antonio, then message me and I'll try and help you out. Resilient strength, tips for improving fin times. Does swimming a 25-yard pool make your time slower since you have to push off the wall 66 times? I think actually that's one of the more important things is learning how to push off the wall correctly. That saves a lot of time as far as your fins. A lot of guys come to the wall slowly and push off like really lazily and that kind of stuff. If you're grabbing on the wall, pulling yourself in, snapping up, and then swimming and making sure your body's streamlined, I don't think that is going to really affect you that much. All right, Caleb Parent, on a regular deployment, do you typically do more CASEVAC stuff or actual missions? It depends on the deployment. If you're in Afghanistan, you're going to be doing a lot of CASEVAC stuff. If you are attached to a team, you're going to be doing actual like ODA missions and that kind of stuff. But it really depends on the deployment. So, okay, revisiting, cool. All right, well, thanks for bearing with me, and I think it ended up being a little bit longer than I planned on it being. But if you guys have any other questions later on, just message me. I'll try to get to you as soon as possible. Make sure you get your questions answered. But I want to make sure that you guys have as much information as possible. And I'll do another video here probably next week, but we'll see. Still working hard on those projects. I'll do more videos more frequently whenever I'm done with all these, the website, the workouts, all that kind of stuff. But I want to make sure that's done as soon as possible too. So thanks again for sitting in on this. And if you have any other questions, message me after this. All right, thanks.